We cannot isolate like this, really, because we have to look at that whole being, that we see here. This is this essence of the soul, and the chart shows the difficulty by just knowing the color, right? The color of the head and the ajna, which is this beautiful mind, but it's so cut off from the energy down below. If we were to do a human design reading and bring in these attributes, you remember that we are talking about Venus can be harsh in her retribution. This is where your morality lies, your prejudice, the core of your deception, your deviousness, and your hypocrisy and your cruelty. Venus establishes our values and represents our morals and the natural laws for how we deal with each other and the world around us. Venus is the archetype of the youngest daughter and also represents love and beauty. For you personally, Venus is the right and the wrong, where the moral questions and issues are for you. So if you do not act with moral clarity and those around you do not act with moral clarity, Venus can be harsh in her retribution. This is where your morals lie, your prejudice, the core of your deception, your deviousness, your hypocrisy, and your cruelty. So interesting, if we were to apply that 42nd gate and keeping that in mind, that a restrictive, malefic materialism that is self-annihilating. Wow, self-annihilating and encourages aggression, the refusal to share the benefits. Wow, so that's the dark side. But if she were in the Venus in the purity of who she was, remember, this is red. This is the unconscious. She does not have direct access to this frequency. This is part of the genetic code. This is part of the ancestral DNA. And it's on the line 6, which is the one who ultimately can become the role model. So nurturing, a natural and instinctive nurturing of others, the power to share the process of growth with others. Isn't that fascinating? Because in essence, this is the most powerful connection to her projector guide energy as well. Either she's going to share this growth and this wisdom and the morals of who she truly is, or it's going to become self-annihilating and create the darkness that she went into occasionally. She didn't do it all the time, all both this and that. I can open up a visual of the chart so you can see the visual there of her chart. Yes, there we go. I love that. And so 42nd gate is in the sacral. So it is the one that is right, the red one, right at the bottom, and it's pointed down to the defined root. So that's the gate that we're talking about, the 42nd gate on her unconscious. Great. All right. So then I just want to balance it out. So that's the beautiful thing about the human design chart. You have this unconscious, your vehicle, which is what we're ultimately growing into, is the red, because we honor the vehicle as our mechanism for making decisions. Personality side, we also have incredible wisdom here, because it becomes our outer authority. It becomes what we think we are, but it serves us because it is who we are in an eternal spiritual way. But forcing the personality side, which is our conscious, our eternal side, into this marriage with the body. The body ultimately is what rules. And if we look at her personality Venus, I will show it to you. Let me see. It's gate 23, which is right off the ajna. So both of her Venuses are on open centers. That means that they are not getting activated. They're dormant. They're dormant gates. They don't get activated until she gets impacted by a transit, right? The planet's moving around to activate that center, or a person who has a defined throat. And most of our humankind have defined throats. I'm defined, and Diana is not common, 30% undefined. So that's vulnerable throat. All right, so let me just go in to what her personality Venus is. It's gate 23, the exponential growth of energy and its power of assertion engendered by fusion. So think about fusion, think about energy, think about exponential growth. And then we have individual knowing, which brings diversity to synthesis. And all I could think of is her with all her children around her, all the diversity of races of children when she went to do her philanthropy, right, knowing what brings diversity and how to synthesize that and grow the energy exponentially. That's what this is about. So that's the high end. What about the principled, the detriment, the principled but futile withdrawing from the fusion that leads to atrophy, individual knowing that holds on to diversity and loses its power in expression. So basically, that what I'm reading is that when she's not able to have this ability to bring synthesis to the diversity, she will go into the dark place again and lose power and not be able to express herself. Okay, so she gets shut down instead of the exponential growth that can happen. We always have two sides of the coin. That's in her throat. Again, let's remind you where that it's a theme of how she articulates. It's a theme of how she's going to conceptualize that very defined head and ajna. I want to do this. I know I want to help. I know I can do this, and I have a strategic plan. Now, how am I going to get that out into the world and manifest what I want? Exponential growth in her role model leadership way. We cannot isolate like this, really, because we have to look at that whole being. That whole being that we see here, this essence of the soul, and the chart shows the difficulty by just knowing the color, right? The color of the head and the ajna, which is this beautiful mind, but it's so cut off from the energy down below. How difficult is it to connect to your that emotional body down below when the head is so defined? So she thinks she's her mind, yet the body and the emotional energy is how she's supposed to make decisions. So we cannot isolate, really. We bring that whole projector theme, strategy, and authority into the Venus love and all of the morals and the values and that. So just wanting to make sure that we're using these facts, right? But integrating them in the wholeness of who she is.